It was difficult to conceive that these are going to be hard borders. He was the first singer in India to start world tours. I coined this term as the mic down protest because that's what singers did. The golden era film songs were considered vulgar and they were not allowed to be played. Even Pankaj Udas's favorite was the slower version, the sadder version.
Welcome to the International Center Goa. Today we are hosting a program actually being organized by the Goa Institute of Management in association with the International Center Goa. Dr. Kingshuk Sakar is here from the Goa Institute of Management, and we have Sahar Zaman, who has written a book, a biography of Talat Mahmood, who has joined us. I think it's been a while since we first connected, and I wasn't sure when exactly where to fit you in, and thankfully GIM has stepped in. So we'll begin straight away. It's in the form of a discussion. I think there'll be movie clips shown in between, and we have an able assistant from ICG who will handle this to the best of his capabilities. And so please be patient, and let's just have both the speakers, Sahar and Dr. Kingshuk Sakar, on the stage, please.
This is one of such initiatives which try to reach out a larger audience, and because the area is called general management and public policy, so many other things can be covered within that. So some of you must be wondering what Goa Institute of Management, how they came into the picture, because we do other activities which go beyond business school usual things. And I'm thankful to Dr. Pushkar because he also agreed to collaborate with us. We do have many collaboration with Dr. Pushkar ICG in the past also, some of you might be knowing. This is a new kind of initiative that we have taken and hope to continue such initiatives in future also. I'm also thankful to Sahar Zaman for responding to our kind of call that and coming over from Pune and taking the effort. She has written an official biography of the legendary singer Talat Mahmood, and this is also the centenary year of Talat Mahmood. Birthday was 24th February 1924, so we are passing to the centenary. And it is an apt occasion to pay tributes to the legendary singer. And we will not only kind of confine only to the music part of it, will go beyond it in our conversation. So it is in a form of a conversation, and at the end of it, we'll open it for open question. We'll open it for the audience to have a more interactive kind of a session. The first thing first, how you kind of what motivated you to write an official biography? Because we don't have such biographies for other singers particularly. I think Lata Mangeshkar has an official biography, Raju Bharatan written it, but other singers don't have. So what motivated and what led you to write this excellent biography? I've gone through it.
So first of all, good evening to everyone. Thank you very much for coming, because whoever has come today is showing support to celebrate Talat at 100 and to mark his centenary. And a very, very special thank you to the ICG and the director of the ICG and Professor Dr. Kingshuk as well at the GIM for showing all the support, because when you write a book, the purpose of writing the book is to tour with it and to share it with as many people as possible across the country. And this is one of the evenings where this has been made possible with all your support. About your question, Professor, it's a very long process on what made me write the book, because I wrote it. I keep telling people that it's a journalistic extension of my work. I'm a journalist in television and print by profession. So, and this is not a work of fiction. It's non-fiction. It's about a real person, a real life. So I call it an extension of my journalistic work. But I'm also connected to him. He's family. He's my granddad. And we've had these stories at home about his life, and I've met him myself in my life. He passed away when I was just entering college, so I've spent a considerable amount of time with him. But I wasn't always really actively talking about him and saying that, hey, he's my granddad and he had this fabulous life. I was very busy with my own, pursuing my own profession in journalism. But sometime back around 2017, I had this thought that I must do something as a tribute to him because he was such a legendary artist, you know. And there was a moment in my life where I felt very grateful to being connected to him by family. And I wanted to reintroduce that treasure because Golden Era is a long time back now. And for today's generation, they need to be told on whose shoulders today's music and film industry rests on. And it is entirely that generation of the Golden Era that established everything that we have today in the film industry. So I started around 2017 on these tribute concerts. There were physical events, there were concert shows.
Jashn-e Talat.
Jashn-e Talat. Jashan in Urdu means celebration. So it was a celebration of Talat. And because I wanted to introduce the youth to it, it meant that I went to colleges and took bachelor's and master's students and did these singing competitions where they were only allowed to sing Talat songs. And then there were dance competitions where people did their modern dance and classical Kathak on his original soundtracks. Then there were established artists like Talat Aziz Saab and Radhika Chopra and others, Shovna Narayan ji from Kathak, who came to perform for these concerts. While doing these concerts, I started researching more on his career as a journalist and in a very interested in a story per se. And by 2022, I realized that these concerts are not really enough because you can't say much in 3 hours. And there's so much more to his life. And I'm glad the timing was right because somehow, unconsciously, a journalist is always thinking about timing and how to pitch a story and what makes it breaking news. We're always just thinking along those terms. So in 2022, I thought that in 2 years' time, which is this year, 2024, it's going to be his centenary. And if I really want to write a book about his long and extended experience and pioneering aspects of his career, so I should do it right now. So that's what got me started, you know, first in believing in his story, and in second, making sure that the book marks his centenary.
And also, I think in the book also you mentioned that COVID period, the lockdown, also made you kind of revisit those songs, and it was a kind of a solace to mind during that period also. So that also worked as a catalyst, that 2-year kind of break that we had, kind of a thing.
Right. I mean, COVID was an introspection period for all of us. Even though it was also a very busy period, we were doing work from home. I was doing my everyday primetime debates from home. We'd set up a studio at home. It was a very busy time, but at the same time, inevitably for each one of us, I'm sure, for everyone in the room, it was a lot about introspecting about life or where we are and what we are and why we are and all of those things. And when Dilip Kumar Saab passed away, which was somewhere around the time of, I think, maybe 2020, late 2021 or 2022, when we were still in between one of those lockdowns. Yeah, so we were, I think, in lockdown 4 at that time. We were still at home. And I wrote this article for my Times of India column, which was about the friendship of Dilip Kumar and Talat Mahmood. And that was another catalyst on digging further deeply on his life. So yeah, a lot of things collectively worked in that sense to make the book happen.
But consciously you started in 22. Like that you come up
consciously,
with
like actually typing and writing, yes. Yeah.
So
but I think it was just building in my head for a long time.
It took 1.5 years to complete the book.
It took me 1 year to write. I'm used to television news deadlines, so my speed is very fast. I finished writing it in 1 year. Even though it's a very long book, it's more than 90,000 words, and it included translating his songs as well, and interviewing so many people that we lost touch with a generation later. You know, his colleagues who are still around. Some of them are about 90 years old, 92 years old. It meant re-establishing contact and getting in touch with people from the film industry, and a lot of that research and cross-checking and verifying facts. The other year, I mean, even though I finished the first draft within the first year, but the other year or the next 8 months, I decided to self-publish it. I didn't want to go to the publishers because some of the few that I had spoken to come with their own set of contractual demands, and you get very bound by those tight contracts that they had. But I wanted a lot of independence in terms of how the layout and the designing should be, and photographs. There are so many photographs that I've taken from my family albums, which people have never seen before, that I digitized and cleaned up. And I wanted photographs to be every third page. So if you look at the book this evening, I'm carrying a few copies, you will realize that there are photographs every third page. They're not like usually in the middle of the book that you have, that publishers do, that they give you a set of 10 glossy pages, so you have 10 photographs in the middle, and it's not in order with how the book is going. But these photographs are moving chronologically with his life and how he's growing and growing old. And so I had a lot of these things that I really wanted to do from my heart. So I decided to self-publish. So that process in itself takes, when you decide to step away from an established industry of publishers and self-publish, so it means that you plan your own book launch, your opening night, your promotions, your interviews, your tours. So all of that took up a lot of time as well.
You must have discussed with your family members also what to put in the book, or it's their own decision?
Well, they told me a lot of things, and because I was a journalist, they decided what's relevant, what's not. But Dr. Kingshuk, I've been very honest with his story because he lived his life very honestly. He didn't think about what's good for a conservative family. I mean, at least 2 generations before, 1924 was his birth. So we're obviously from a very conservative Lucknow Muslim family, but he kind of broke barriers to do things. And when he didn't hide that, I saw no reason to hide that in the book as well. So a lot of people ask me, was it like a tightrope walk that you wrote for your Nanaji, or did you write for the audience, the readers? So I say that I wrote as a journalist for the readers. I had to kind of step back. I had to really step back and make it a story worth writing and believing,
So my next observation is that before he made it big in Hindi film music, he was a very popular name in Kolkata, and that time Calcutta, new theatres particularly. So there are Bengali basic songs and film songs also. So there are so many of those songs. So in a period when people flocked to Bombay for to become part of the Hindi film music, he went to Calcutta and made it big there. So what made him going to Calcutta and doing those Bengal? Because his background is Lucknow, Urdu,
right.
And he started his career in the All India Radio of Lucknow,
yes.
if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So then this transition to Calcutta and become part of the New Theatres group, and at that point of time there was a lot of those progressive Bengali, they are having that ITPA and all those things setting up. So how he got connected with that, and he was a very household name at that, and name was Tapun Kumar.
Right.
So what is if you can give more light on that?
So yes, that's a very obvious question, because he was an Urdu-speaking person and very deeply into Urdu poetry, and then ghazals, singing poetry, singing ghazals. So we're looking at a time which is before independence, when he was studying in Lucknow, when he was doing his bachelor's in music in Bhatkhande University in Lucknow. So at that time, it was the top university for music. It still is. It's continued with that legacy. So at that time, music labels would come for campus recruitment in picking up the best talent from the university. And so this was around 1940s, in the early 1940s, 44. And this is when our film and entertainment industry was based in Calcutta. Showbiz was Calcutta. It wasn't Bombay. So, which is why he went there. He was picked up from campus, from Lucknow, and taken by HMV to record 3 singles. And for that he was...
HMV was headquartered was in Kolkata. Dum Dum Studio was there.
Yeah, Dum Dum Studio was there, where you have Gohar Jan, our first ever recording of India, of course it was British India at that time, happened in Dum Dum Studio. So our first recording artist was Gohar Jan, and then all our freedom fighters' speeches were recorded in Dum Dum Studio. Rabindranath Tagore reading his own poetry was recorded in Dum Dum Studio. So that's where he went. HMV took him to Dum Dum Studio to record his first 3 singles in Calcutta, and he was paid 30 rupees per single, which was a big deal at that time, 90 rupees for his first recordings. So that was the reason of going to Calcutta. But he went there and recorded an Urdu ghazal, which was Sab Din Ek Saman Nahi Tha. And it's in a very traditional beat style. It's in a style in which you hear K.L. Sehgal singing. And if you hear this on YouTube, you will realize that he had a very strong influence of K.L. Sehgal, of course. He was like the superstar of British India, and something that kind of stardom one had not seen before K.L. Sehgal. So everyone was influenced, and Talat himself sounded a bit like K.L. Sehgal while singing that song. So that was a hit, and then he went back to finish his university. And Pankaj Malik, if you're familiar of Calcutta films and production theatre and film studios of that time, was part of New Theatres. Which is today's Yash Raj banner or Dharma Productions of Karan Johar. So that is New Theatres of Calcutta of the 1940s, in which K.L. Sehgal and Kannan Devi were signed up, and they used to act in their films and sing. So then he recorded his first record-breaking ghazal there, Tasveer Teri. Tasveer Teri Dil mera behla na sakegi. So this was a huge hit, and the yardstick for a hit in those days used to be 300 copies sold. And Tasveer sold 1 lakh copies. So it was like a mega blockbuster hit. So Pankaj Malik told him, well, now that you're here in Calcutta to work, you might as well sing in Bengali as well. You can't do away with that. So that got him a bit worried, because he said कि मेरी पूरी जो preparation in life रही है वो उर्दू में रही है, मेरी तहजीब उर्दू में है, मेरा लहजा उर्दू का है, मैं कैसे करूँगा बंगाली में. So Pankaj Malik said, don't worry, we'll train you. And he was a hit in Bengali as well.
He picked up Bengali so nicely. Like it seems like he's Bengali himself.
Yes, and that's a very, very strong belief that people had for a very long time, that he was a Bengali boy.
In my childhood, I thought that he was a Bengali.
Yeah.
Later, I came to know, no, he is not from Bengal.
Well, he became Bengali family later. I mean, he married a Bengali girl. So, yeah, so he became Calcutta's Jija Ji, so to say. But, yeah, so that's how Calcutta happened. And it's only after independence when the commercial industry in Calcutta collapsed, because it split to Bangladesh, East Pakistan. Yeah, that's when the market shrunk. New theatre shut down, unfortunately, and that's when the film industry was shifting to Bombay.
And all the Bengalis, all those film-related Bengalis, they've moved to Bombay.
Yes,
also.
yes, and then the others were moving to Bombay, the new commercial capital. So yeah, that's how first it started in Bengal. And he sang, as Dr. Kingshuk said, he sang in the name of Tapan Kumar. So all his Bengali songs are in the name of Tapan Kumar.
Still, they are very popular in Bengal.
Right.
Lot of people keep on listening to those songs even today. And I think those will remain very popular even in the coming days also.
Yes,
those are iconic
yes.
songs.
True.
And talking about independence and partition, it would be interesting to discuss the fact that when the independence happened, partition also happened.
Yes.
So in the context of partition, in the context of the country getting divided on religious lines, the dilemma of Muslims in those whether to move to Pakistan or either to the Pakistan or the eastern part of Pakistan, that is today's Bangladesh. So how that dilemma was there in the Talat's family, and how he was a rebel before that also. He left home for the sake of music.
Yes.
So there was some opposition from the father's side that you don't go into the music thing. But he defied that and started his career. Now the partition time, so there was again another pressure, whether to stay here or whether, and I understand that 2 of his brothers moved, one to Karachi and another to Dhaka.
Yes.
So
Yes,
how
so the
he
family was
reconcile
split.
at that point of time that you remain in India and
This is a reconciliation to fate that a lot of families at that time went through, whether it was Indian Muslim families deciding to decide on which side of the border. It happened with Punjabi families. It happened with Parsi families. So that's a tragedy that a lot of families of that generation
it
have
happened
gone
with
through.
Bengali families also.
Absolutely,
to a certain extent,
absolutely, because that was being cut up as well. So it was a painful experience, and undoubtedly. There was one thing very particular in Talat's mind and even in his father, who was part of the freedom movement and campaigning for the freedom of India, that they wanted to stand with the secular spirit of the country. So that was a very conscious decision that was made by Talat himself, even though his brothers at that time were geographically located in Dhaka and Karachi because they were working there. So that's how they decided we might as well stay back. And it's very strange, you know, the understanding that people had at that time was, it was difficult to conceive that these are going to be hard borders. I don't know. I mean, somehow people thought that these are going to be porous borders and it's going to be easy to walk in and walk out. That isn't the case. I mean,
No, that's not the case.
That's not the case. What eventually happened, you know, and how the country split in three parts and how hurtful and bloody that moment was. So of course, all of this one could not think. The larger sense was that, okay, we are where we will stay or we'll take other decisions. But somehow Talat was in line with the spirit of the arts. And I think a multicultural and a multi-faith country is that can best be in line with the spirit of the arts as well. So that was his conscious decision to stay back and then move to Bombay.
The
Yeah.
kind of dilemma that you see in films like Garam Hawa, kind
Yes.
of. So like,
Yeah. True.
And also, it is a coincidence though that today is 6th December. So there's a significant day in that sense. So now talk about how he studied in Bombay music, how the first film happened, or like it is Anil Vishwas which introduced Talat Mahmood Saab into the film music first. And there was a funny story about how he met Anil Vishwas. He was first thought as a come for some acting assignments,
Yeah, because he was
referred
so
to his
good-looking.
wife.
Yeah.
He did not like it, left home. So there is a funny story about it. And
Yes, it's a very it's a story that deserves to be made in a film. I mean, I'm now all the time thinking of a biopic. Hopefully, that will happen through the book someday. But Bombay was a struggle somehow. Like in Calcutta, he was a runaway hit. I mean, right from the word go. And he was confident that now he's shifting to Bombay. He's already a known name. People recognize him as, they recognize the voice of Tapan Kumar, and Bombay is going to be easy. You know, it just means geographically shifting. But as is the character of the city of Bombay, wo aapko hamesha ragad ke chhodti hai. It just has to test you no matter what. No matter who you are, it just has to test you and give you a tough time before you start enjoying it. So that's what happened with him in Bombay. Okay, he went there and everyone knew of him as Tapan Kumar and his Talat Mahmood ghazals, but somehow they didn't like his vibrato there. In Calcutta, it was much appreciated. I think also because it more suited the style of modern Bangla music.
And also in Rabindra Sangeet, also some application of vibrato is there.
So the vibrato
that
was his
opera
strength.
kind of singing.
Yes, so that was his strength in Calcutta, but that didn't seem to be his strength in Bombay. And so it was Anil Biswas who said that he called him he came for an audition and he thought this boy is so good looking, he's probably come to test himself to be an actor, and he didn't recognize him till he realized that was Talat Mahmood, and he was called
He was
again.
incredibly good looking.
He was very good looking. Like you saw some shots of Soni Ki Chidiya of acting with Nutan. So Talat Mahmood acted as a hero in some 13, 14 films as well. But anyway, when he finally recorded with Anil Biswas, and Anil Da is someone that people call him as, they title him as the Bhishma Pitama of the music industry, because whatever music we have, the structure of film songs that we have today, which is Mukhra, Antara, Mukhada, Antara, the main part and then the stanza and then the main part and then the interlude. That structure was, part of that structure was coined by him. Pankaj Malik started playback singing by recording songs separately for films, but the structure of songs was started by Anil Bipsa. So that is the giant that we're talking about
He
here.
started in mid-30s, I think.
Yes. And he took, earlier they just recorded film songs with a tabla and harmonium, just do with it. But he was the first who made songs with calling in a 20-piece orchestra. So I think because he was maybe inclined to an operatic style, he liked that vibrato, the vibration of Talat's voice. And he said that make this your strength and we'll record a song for you that will become your strength. And it started a phenomenal partnership. It was in the 1950. There was this film of Dilip Kumar, which was also the start of Dilip Kumar's Tragedy King era. So it started a very formidable partnership of Talat Mahmood and Dilip Kumar. So whenever Dilip Kumar sang for the Tragedy King phase of his career, it was Talat Mahmood singing those songs. So in 1950, in Arzu, the song was "Ae Dil Mujhe Aisi." ए दिल मुझे ऐसी जगह ले चल जहाँ कोई.
So this is the first song he sang.
This is the first he recorded for Dilip Kumar that
That is
became
Arzu.
Arzu, that became a
1950.
blockbuster hit. And
Then came Babul.
then came Babul with Naushad. So that set the ball rolling.
That Babul has that incredible song like "Milte hi aake dil hua,
Yes.
Deewana kisi ka."
Duet.
And it is a duet with Shamshad Begum. It's such a contrast when you hear the song. Like
Because one
the
is
two
very
singers have
thick
different
voice.
kind of
Yeah.
voices, but
Different genres, but they came
I
together
think
in that.
that even the piano was played by Naushad himself, like in that, and there
Yeah.
was some dholki and. Also played by some very important person. So that background, the music that went with that song is also enhancing the quality, and the contrast was fabulous. Like
Yes, the
once
contrast
you
was-
hear that song, the song stays with you for the rest of the day. So
I think that's the charm or the magic of the golden era. These are songs that stay with you and they have a shelf life which is beyond 70, 80 years.
and
That's
then
the golden
came
era.
Daag.
Daag, of course.
So Daag is Shankar Jaikishan.
Yeah. That was, I remember researching about it for the film Daag, which is like one of the landmark films for Dilip Kumar in his Tragedy King phase. And when I was when I was writing for the book, I was watching these films and I was listening to these songs and then writing the book and then kind of corroborating that with whatever family stories we had of recording songs and shooting behind the scenes. I thought to myself that Daag is so morose. How can one handle this? I mean, the films of those times are so tragic. They're so morose, you can't sit through them. But that is what the country was going through, After independence, politically, after independence, the idea was to let's celebrate this. It's a freedom fought hard, so let's celebrate this. But it wasn't as celebratory because it took some time. Of course, it was celebration. But I think emotionally, it took some time for people to sink in because they went through that partition. They went through what they saw. And that's what the films were reflecting, which is why we have the Tragedy King phase, because this is what the films were reflecting of that time, that everyone's so affected and always just completely drowning in their sorrow. So I think that's what Daag is about as well. It was a
Daag has a very
huge,
famous song
huge blockbuster hit. It has about 4 soundtracks, all very, very sad, and all hits. I don't know how many sad songs can be hits, but they were all hits. That was the mood of the nation, I think, yeah.
Then came Madhosh. The partnership with Madan Mohan happened with
Of
Madhosh.
course, yeah. Meri yaad mein tum, aansu bahana, yes.
And that period also coincided with, suppose, the first elected government. Jawaharlal Nehru became the elected
Yeah, this was the
Prime
early
Minister,
1950s where we had our
1950s.
first general
and
elections.
then you have like 5-year plans came into the place.
Yeah.
And you have Bhudan movement, like land reforms. So even the films of those era, kind of that era, also reflected the kind of changes were happening that is in the socio-economic kind of landscape of the
So,
country.
if you notice how, as the book moves chronologically in his life, but his life is also placed at such an important moment in history. It moves chronologically of the independence, the creation, and the evolution of the country as well. And in turn, the evolution of the film industry, the music industry. And when you talk about the Bhudan movement, which is the land...
Land reforms, distributing
reforms.
extra land among the land.
Distribution and giving it, yeah. So I came upon this because I was exploring Talat's regional songs. You know, he's sung in 16 different languages. His career as Tapan Kumar singing in Bengali gave him that confidence to sing in other regional languages. So I was going through this a book of his songs where I came upon songs that he sung in Gujarati for the gramophone label. And then I translated those songs and I tried to understand what are these songs, because they don't belong to a film. These songs are neither non-film recordings nor are they film recordings. These songs were recorded for the government of Bombay when you had parts of Maharashtra, Rajasthan and Gujarat, which were all called the government of Bombay. And he sang these Gujarati songs for the government of Bombay, for the land reforms, in which he mentions Vinoba Bhave and that entire movement of land reforms. So it's been quite a study in history as well while writing this book, you know, because it takes you through a lot of political evolution of the country, apart from just, you know, being in an isolated island of films or of showbiz. As a journalist, I'm used to connecting things to the larger picture. So it's not a book that just writes about the film industry. It gives you a context in which part of the country and which era of the country. So in that sense, it really takes you
and
through.
And also reached out to larger audience through world tours that started around 1953.
56, yeah.
56, yeah.
So I'm not so sure how many of you know this who are Talat Mahmood fans, that he was the first singer in India to start world tours. Before him, no one was doing world tours, no Indian playback singer. And he started this in 1956, which was the peak of his career. He used to get a lot of fan mail from outside in which people would keep calling him. And he wanted to start a world tour because he believed in taking Indian music outside to the Asian diaspora and to the NRIs who are settled outside. And he went in 1956. He was advised against it. Many people told him that, you know, when you go and when you're touring for 2-3 months, your studio recordings will not happen, your film shoots will not happen, and that vacuum will immediately be filled up by someone else. Someone else could just step in and take that place. But he was very daring and adventurous. He went ahead nevertheless, and he did his first world tour in 1956 to East Africa. So that was the collective nations of Tanzania, Nigeria, and Kenya. They were all under the British, so they were called East Africa. And there was this person who was his first concert manager, Mr. Nandi Duggal. May his soul rest in peace. He just passed away last week. And I'm so fortunate I had a chance to speak with him. He was 91 years old and a razor-sharp memory. And he shared such exclusive experiences of what happened when they were in East Africa. It was a fun tour. It was interacting with fans. And there was a complete Talat hysteria there, which is what I called Talat mania, because the way Nandi Duggal described it, that they would travel and they were originally booked for 15 shows. And then the demand was such that he ended up singing for 30 shows, because as they moved ahead, there were more places that got booked. In fact, he was on the train once, going from one city to Tanzania. And in the middle of the route, in one station, they were not allowed to move. You know, they blocked the rail tracks. And they said that we were very annoyed. that you've been touring across and you're not even performing here. So you please get down off the train and perform tonight. So these were the kind of different incidents that took place. He could not go in backstage because there was such a mob hysteria. The helicopters had to be called to clear the crowd. So some very, very interesting, intense experiences that we have in the book. And it wasn't just about, of course, having fun and having these adventures. But interestingly, when he started these film tours, these playback singing global tours of his, he would come back and there would be this huge buzz in the film industry कि तलत वहाँ गया था और इतने tickets बिके, बड़ा successful show था. So his colleagues who were his close friends, Mukesh ji, Lata Didi, they thought of doing these world tours, and inevitably they would take the tested route, and that route would be what Talat has taken. So as he moved to East Africa and then went to the Caribbean and then to the United States and UK, and in the late 80s, he was touring till 1992, much after his recording career was over. Till the late 1992 he toured. He then tapped the Middle East as well, because that's where a lot of Indians shifted in the 1980s. So he performed in Riyadh, he performed in Dubai. So these became route maps for his colleagues to refer to. So that was a very interesting part of his life. He started world tours. Yeah.
And also he was instrumental in establishing the Playback Singers Association in 1952, I think. And
in 1960s.
And did some charity shows also.
Yes, raising funds for the senior artists singers,
and musicians.
Senior artists. So, but when you talk about the Playback Singers Association, we know about the royalty rights that singers and lyricists now ask for, and we have this body called Isamra today, which takes care of royalties that singers get. Talat Mahmood, which people usually define as the gentle voice and the king of ghazals, was a huge activist as well, which comes across as very surprising and which is an aspect of his personality that I've really expanded on in detail in the book. So in the 1960s, there was the Playback Singers Association, and he was the chairperson, the secretary of that. And in his official capacity, he gathered in his colleagues, his singers, Mukesh, Lata Didi, later Mohammad Rafi Saab and Asha Bhosle also joined in. It was the first protest in the film industry for the royalty rights of singers. And this was a 3-month protest. And you can imagine what that does to a film production or a music label. They're so shaken. If singers are not recording songs for 3 months, that's a death knell to the industry. So I defined it as the mic down protest, because the singers, they put their mic down, like you have a pen down protest. So I coined this term as the mic down protest, because that's what singers did in the early 1960s during this protest. Of course, it fizzled out because it broke away. But I think that was the first step in the film industry, which became a defining moment under Talat Mahmood's leadership to make their voice heard as far as royalty rights is concerned. Yeah.
And also going back to 50s, in 50s there was some restriction in the All India Radio playing Hindi film songs. That time the broadcasting minister was not in favor of playing too many film songs.
Hindi songs.
Bharati came in 1957 only. So that time Binaka Geetmala came into existence, and initial years Talat Mahmood's songs were charting the tops, like topping the charts.
So this was the 1950s, interesting at a time now. We look back at the 1950s as the absolute perfection of music and films. But at that time, as you mentioned and what I've written in the book, they were considered vulgar. The golden era film songs were considered vulgar and they were not allowed to be played on All India Radio, which is why Binaka Geetmala was born and it started being broadcast from Dhaka.
Ceylon.
Ceylon, yes.
Ceylon.
I'm sorry.
Radio
I'm
Ceylon.
so sorry. Radio Ceylon. And yeah, in the initial first few years, a lot of Talat Mahmood songs
They
were
used to
number one.
record in Bombay and take the tapes to Ceylon to play.
Yes, they would broadcast it from there.
Amin Sani started
and
recording.
we would catch the signal in India. And it was such a huge hit, the Binaka, which is, I think, part of it's a chapter in the history of Indian music. It was such a huge hit that All India Radio had to relent.
That became a kind of a benchmarking, like if you are part of the first 10 songs, then it becomes something.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also, like, Talat Sahab was the first one to sing a radio jingles advertisement in 1953 or 54, I think.
Yes, he did a lot of advertisements.
So that is also
So-
pioneering kind of a thing that
Yeah.
he started that
Well,
kind of
I
thing.
think
So
what
like-
was the brand's name? Murphy, I'm so sorry. Murphy Radio.
Murphy Radio.
Sorry. I was thinking of the film.
Huh.
So yeah, he was a model for Murphy Radio as the singing star. Yeah.
And then this he continued his in 1953 this bars happened with Opin Nair. Then Footpath happened in 1953 with Khayyam Saab. Again a combination of Khayyam, Dilip Kumar, Majroor Sultanpuri.
Yeah, so this is Shame Gum Ki Qasam.
Shame Gum Ki Qasam.
Yeah.
Then Patita happened in 1953.
Absolutely. Does
Devanand
anyone from
Sailandra.
the audience recall these songs? Which ones? Let's hear some of them from you. And then we can all join. Any suggestion? Tasveer Banata Hu. Yes, that is from the film Baradari. It was a very unique combination of actor Chandrasekhar with Talat Mahmood's voice. And
Baradari in 1955.
yes.
There's one solo version of it that is too good, but many of the
That's
people.
the sad version.
Yeah. But it is also equally good, but people are not much aware of it,
Yeah.
That is the very sad thing. I mean,
So this is in fact exactly the point what Pankaj Udas Saab had told me when I was writing the book. So Pankaj Udas Saab said the same thing, that it's a very popular song which is Itna Na Mujhse Tu Pyar. It's very fast and foot tapping. But even Pankaj Udas's favorite was the slower version, the sadder version. So which is something very similar that he said as well.
jali mitti pe mujhe de mara. That is
Yes,
something.
yeah. The lyrics were very powerful of that time, and I think that's what. I was in Delhi last week there's this festival called the Delhi Poetry Festival, and they wanted to celebrate the poetry in Talat Mahmood's songs. So these were few of the songs that we had picked up to discuss the poetry, like Jalte Hain Jiske Liye, written by Majroor Sultanpuri. And it was a very befitting discussion to have for someone like Talat, because Talat Nana in his lifetime always used to say that he never wanted to compromise with the quality of poetry. Like in the 1970s or late 70s and 80s, when lyrics were becoming very fickle, or even earlier, there were songs that he would leave and not record because he didn't like the lyrics. And he was very closely attached to the quality of poetry that needs to be sung.
And also around 1954 he started singing non-film songs also.
Yes, there were a lot of non-film ghazals, like you mentioned Khayyam Saab. He recorded a lot of non-film ghazals. He was someone who continued to have a parallel career. So he had his mainstream career in films, which is what we say Bollywood career today. But he had a parallel career in Bengali. Even though he left Calcutta physically,
Kept on going back.
he kept recording Bengali songs till the 1970s. So that was a parallel career. Another parallel career was recording his ghazals. He continued recording ghazals which were not part of films. So he was kind of handling a lot of careers at
And
the
also
same
the fact
time.
that the connection with Bengali film industry was also kind of continued in Bombay also, like Bimal Rai films.
Yes.
Like the collaboration with Hemant Kumar.
Absolutely.
All
There's
this,
a duet
if you
that he sung with
like,
Rakhi, the
even the
actress.
start, Anil Vishwas, is basically from that group only. So,
From that group of people, from that pool,
That is,
yeah.
that was there even after
Yes.
he came.
I mean, Hemant Kumar Saab was one of his closest friends in life. And that's how the duet with Rakhi also happened, because it was an experiment that Hemant Da wanted to do, and he asked Talat to do that experiment. So there are lines that Talat Mahmood sings and then Rakhi speaks. It was very unique. Yeah, I don't think it was very commercially popular. I'm not so sure. But the experiment was unique for its time. Yeah.
Those we called in Bengali Shruti Natok kind of a thing, like
Okay.
two persons reciting or singing together. These are taken from Rabindranath Tagore's, some of the works are like that. It is singing and conversation together kind of a thing. So I think it was taken from that kind of template kind of a thing. So it kept like all the successes that happened in 1954 with Boot Polish, again Sailendra Sankar Jayakishan. Then you have this Baradari happening in 1955, Tasbir Banata Hu.
Yes.
Then
So
there
Tasveer
is,
was his lucky charm. He had a couple of songs with the word Tasveer and they were all hits. Yeah.
Then Devdas also happened with S.D.
Yes,
Burman and
Devdas
Sahil
was
Loden.
landmark,
Landmark,
1955.
And-
Devdas was with Dilip Kumar, and
And the
they
song
had this
Mitwa.
Mitwa, yes, and they had this partnership that you have Bimal Roy, you have Dilip Kumar, so it has to be Talat Mahmood singing for the Tragedy King. So Devdas, in that sense, was landmark, and I've written in the book as well that Talat Mahmood said that for him the biggest compliment was that. When he sang Mithwa, a lot of people felt that Dilip Kumar himself is singing because it was so drowned in sorrow and it was so softly sung. I think that was also what do I say, the reason why Talat Mahmood and Dilip Kumar became such close friends as well. Even though professionally they kind of, their paths diverted.
Drifted.
Yeah, because he kind of the mood of films changed and the pace of songs changed, but personally they continued to remain the closest of friends to the extent that they were similar in terms of personalities. They were both very much into poetry and Urdu and English literature. They were both
High on
soft-spoken.
aesthetics,
Yeah.
sophistications.
Yes, yeah, very, very similar characteristics. So they gelled very well as two friends. And even in the 1980s, when Talat Mahmood came with his this big comeback album of ghazals, which kind of topped the charts in the 1980s. So Dilip Kumar had come to launch that album for him. So their friendship lasted to their lifetime. Yeah, it was very special. It was a great partnership. Yeah.
And then this song happened, Jalte Hai Jiske Liye with S.D. Burman, Sujata, Sunil Dutt. So that is also another iconic song.
Yes, and I've dedicated one full chapter to that song.
Yes.
If you read the book, if you take it from me today, it was his, of course, first Filmfare nomination, and it was a song. There's a very interesting behind-the-scenes process of "Jalte Hain Jiske Liye." S.D. Burman wanted a voice that would sound soft over the phone, and if you're familiar with the song, it is sung over the phone with Dilip Kumar singing to Nutan. So he wanted a voice that would sound. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sunil Dutt sir singing to Nutan, and S.D. Burman Saab wanted a voice that would sound soft over the phone as well, and that was the reason Talat Mahmood was then taken. And the challenge of the song was the way it is picturized, that Sunil Dutt's character is expressing this absolute joy that we found this love and we should keep it, and there's a lot of happiness. And on the other end, since this is a film of a marriage, of a love story between two opposing castes, and Nutan is drowning in sorrow, knowing that this can't work in real life, and she's crying over the phone. So it had to express an emotion and a pitch that had to express the happiness as well as the tragedy of Nutan. And that's how the song was conceptualized and sung. And this was our first Indian film that was chosen to be screened at the Cannes Film Festival.
Because it's based on caste kind of.
Yes, it talks about social issues.
Untouchability,
Yes.
casteism.
So when it was screened there at Cannes, and I'm sure this was an European audience that was watching, and the film was played with subtitles. But the song was the raison d'etre of the film. And when it played at the Cannes Film Festival, there was pin drop silence after the song was played. And you could hear people, sniffing, being so emotional. That was the power of that song and the power of the voice. It was phenomenal. I don't think there can be anything like Jalte Hain Jiske Liye.
Then in 60s you have Usne Kaha Tha, Shalil Chaudhary, and Chaya in 1961, Itna Na Mujhse Pyar Bada. So this happened.
This is when music was changing and it was getting faster. By the 70s, of course, the orchestra became very loud. So Talat himself decided to step away. But yeah, this is the stage where you have music taste changing and the influence of Elvis and the Beatles coming in and orchestra getting louder.
In between, he had a Pakistan tour also in 1961.
Yes.
So talk about a bit more of
that. So this was 1960s when he toured Pakistan. It was actually a private holiday to meet his brother. And I think
Karachi.
in Karachi, and I think after 1947 he was meeting his brother for the first time in the 1960s, after almost about 20 years, and brothers who were just 1 year apart in age and very close. They used to play cricket together. They used to sing like cycle together, and they were very close. And I think he was meeting him after a gap of 20 years after independence. So it was planned to be a private trip to Pakistan, particularly in Karachi. He couldn't go to Lahore, but it ended up being a concert as well. And once again, the crowds were going crazy. And I spoke to someone named Mr. Rashid Latif. He's now retired and he's in Canada. He's about 93 years old now. And he used to be the director of the EMI record label. And Mr. Rashid Latif gave me a lot of these interesting incidents that happened, apart from what my family had to say as well, of course, on how the crowd reacted when he was there. I mean, there was a capacity, there was an open air ground where he had to perform, and there was such a stampede that even, and at that time, there was a new, young, upcoming singer, Mehdi Hassan Saab, the great. He was a huge Talat Mahmood fan, so he had come to hear that concert, and there was a huge stampede, and he kind of got blocked by the gates, and he even couldn't enter his, his seats there, and there were special occasions to mark special signing of records, and very interestingly, Noor Jahan called him up from Lahore. So he couldn't go to Lahore, they didn't get to meet. But she called him up and she said that the industry wants you here. And it's time that you come here, which means that you leave, you don't go back, you just settle in Pakistan. And I am sending my chap to you tomorrow, and he will give you a blank check.
And 9 film contracts.
And 9 film contracts, and you fill up that blank check for whatever you want, but just stay back. I mean, Talat was shocked, of course, and I think also a bit miffed, because he said, this isn't a fair question, you know. I mean, I made my decision for India in 1947, and there's no going back on that. But such was the craze. It's just an indication of how crazy people were of his ghazals and music in Pakistan as well.
But somehow in 1963, after such huge success in India and outside, Tala Sahab only recorded 3 songs in 1963. Why this discrete kind of a thing came? Like, why this discontinuity? Can you shed light on that?
There were many reasons, you know. One of them was that we also had this very ugly trend of version songs. Now, the 60s is a time where Mohammad Rafi Saab came up and established his position as the absolute formidable power of the industry, which is phenomenal perfection. He became the preferred voice for everyone. And his voice was something that could deal with strong orchestra as well. And preferences started taking over. There's this concept of version songs, you know, music labels would record. Like, Mohammad Rafi ka jo gana hai, Chal Ud Ja Re Panchi. So that was first recorded in Talat Mahmood's voice. And that also became an official version because it was released in All India Radio. So whenever people heard that song in the radio, they heard it in Talat's voice. But in the film, it was recorded in Rafi's voice. So it became a song with 2 versions, a Talat version and a Rafi version.
But they did know about
The
it?
singers didn't know. This was something what the music labels did. But the artists of the golden era were very thick with each other. They were personal friends, or they had incredible respect for each other. So after a few version songs, the singers put their foot down and said, this isn't happening. You're not going to do this with us anymore. So there were a few version songs that were recorded in Talat's voice and then re-recorded in Rafi's voice or in Mukesh's voice and then released differently. So this happened a couple of times, which is how you think eventually in 1963 he had very few official recordings. So it stopped for a while till the singers put their foot down. But we see it is rampant today, you know. I mean, it's quite a menace. There are singers today who talk about version songs, not just being 2 versions, there's 7, 8 versions. And it's for the producer and director to just, on their whims, decide what sounds better. That's hugely unfair, but that's something that singers are still struggling with today.
Then in 1964, Jahanara happened.
Yes,
So
yes.
when Madan Mohan fought with the producer that
Yeah.
I want Talat Saab for my
Yeah.
3 songs.
So if
that those 3 are all gems.
they're all gems and they're a cult classic. If you know Phir Wahi Sham. Phir wahi sham, wahi gham, wahi tanhai, dil ko behlane teri yaad chali aayi hai, phir wahi sham. Beautiful. No, I was pointing out to you. Beautifully sung. Yes, you. Very nice. Yeah. No. To you, Emily. You were like completely drowning in the ghazal. Yes. And
2 other songs are also iconic, not only
yes,
this. This is
yes. In fact,
the most popular one. But
the antara of this ghazal, which is जाने अब तुझसे मुलाकात कभी हो के ना हो.
it's quite like some of the lyrics of this particular stanza
Yeah.
is like Lag Ja Gale, like
Yes, but
kind
that's
of-
the Madan Mohan
Madan
song.
But this is also Madan Mohan,
yeah.
like same kind of.
Right. So I was mentioning this stanza because I used to, this ghazal used to keep haunting me when I was writing the book, because when I was writing the book, I really wanted to meet him and I wanted to talk to him. And this ghazal was a continuous reminder that Meri manzil teri manzil se bichhad aayi hai. I can't talk to him. So this ghazal kept coming back to me. But the story that you're referring to of what Madan Mohan Saab did for this, so the producer or the director wanted another voice for the film, and there were about 4 songs, mostly of the style of ghazals that Madan Mohan ji had composed, and he put his foot down and he said that these are composed for Talat's voice, and there's no other singer who can do justice to it. So Madan Mohan ji said that I will book my own studio with my own money, I will pay my own orchestra, and I will pay Talat for recording these songs. But if you decide to not take Talat's voice for the film, I will leave the film. So that's how he put his foot down in believing in his composition and in Talat's voice. But I think it's very nice to have stubborn artists, because otherwise we would have never had these songs. We could have never heard these. It's important for. It's important for those who are pumping in money in a film to believe in artists.
In this context, it would be. We can mention also the fact that Madan Mohan did the same thing later on also in 1976, when 1975 or 76, when Laila Majnu happened.
Oh, I
he
see.
was again like put his the thing that time it was Rishi Kapoor's film, and Rishi Kapoor was coming up in a big way at that time, and Rishi Kapoor was a young hero, so they wanted some other singers to Shailendra Singh or Kishore Kumar to sing for Rishi Kapoor
that
at that
happens
point.
with
But
every generation.
Madan Mohan said that no, only Rafi Saab can sing those
Absolutely.
songs. So he said
Yeah.
that I will leave the film if I'm not given
True.
that option.
Yeah, and it's very important, as I say.
And then Laila Majnu became a cult film. Again, those songs I don't think any other
Absolutely.
singers could have sung like
true.
so. So Madan Mohan and S.D. Burman, they were very kind of. They always went for they had particular choice for a singer for a particular song, and they never compromised on that.
So that's what I keep saying. That's a lot to do with the character of the golden era artists. Only they could do these things, because they also had the confidence that this is a film industry and this is a music industry that has been established because of them. And whatever we have today rests on their shoulders, because it's the golden era that created everything. And we're coming down decades and years after what they have established.
There are stories
So-
that S.D. Burman used to telephone the singer in the morning of the recording and
I don't
taste the voice, whether it is as per his own standards on that particular day, or otherwise he'll postpone the kind of recording also, like so. And his usual rehearsal happened with Manna De most of the time, but songs went to some other. But he said that I will rehearse with you, then you rehearse that, you will three together will rehearse, and ultimately, like some of the songs Manna Dey got on himself, but many songs went to some other singers.
In fact,
also.
Manna Dey and Talat Mahmood were the closest of friends. I remember meeting Manna Dey when I was a child. When I used to go to Bombay for my summer holidays, I would spend a lot of time with Bombay Nana. I mean Talat Nana. So I used to call him Bombay Nana because he used to stay in Bombay, and we didn't really want to have any complicated nomenclature or something. What do you call him, Nana Jan or Nana Jania? So we just called him Bombay Nana. And Manna Dey uncle had come home visiting for having tea, and we used to sit and talk with him. So they were very close friends. In fact, there's this incident I talk about in the book as well, that when Talat Mahmood sang Tasveer, the ghazal, Tasveer Teri Dil Mera Behla Na Sakegi, Madan Mohan heard it over the airwaves, and he said, I felt a lot of jealousy because I could not imagine how can someone sing so softly. I mean, that kind of a soft voice was not heard before, because also the style of voices was very thick after the trend of KL Sehgal. So Manna uncle had said that I felt very jealous when I heard of him, when I heard this voice. But in Bombay, when he made friends with him, he just completely fell in love with him as a friend and as a person, because he was a great guy. Talat Mahmood was charming and just a very nice person to be friends with, and that's how they became very close friends. Yeah.
So it's a bit intriguing that like all the three big stars of the 1950s, and later on also Raj Kapoor, Devanand, Dilip Kumar, then also Shammi Kapoor, Pradeep Kumar and others, all were given their initial playbacks by Talat Saab.
Yes,
And
yes.
all the great music directors, starting from Anil Vishwas, Naushad Saab,
Because in the
Nair,
1950s,
S.D.
he was the
Burman,
first
Roshan.
choice.
So why then, like, that did not continue a bit longer? What is the reason? Like,
As I said, the reason was changing music styles and loud orchestra. His voice could not handle the orchestra of the 70s.
Another thing
and
that
he
you
didn't like it either, so he kind of left.
another thing you mentioned in page 299 of your book, like the biography, where you quoted Talat Saab saying that I did not want to compromise on certain aspects, like the lyrics quality or orchestration.
I love Professor Kingshuk's research. He's even given me the page number. It's amazing. I mean, I'll have to revisit and think what is on page 299 now.
So
Thank you for reading it in such depth.
So in retrospect, like sticking to your own preferences
Yes.
and not like kind of adjusting to the changing pattern of music.
Yeah, so this is-
how you see it. Like,
I see it as an artist with a lot of conviction. You know, I mean, if an artist has determined that this is a style that suits me and this is a style that doesn't suit me, so I will not do a style that doesn't suit me, otherwise I will sound bad, you know. And very interestingly, on a different aspect, I asked this question to filmmaker Muzaffar Ali Saab. He was there for the paperback launch of my book, and he was talking about this. I asked him why, because from an artist's point of view, I wanted to understand why someone like Talat Mahmood, who had 13 films as the hero, and he had a silver jubilee with Suraya as well for a film as a hero, and he was so good looking as an actor, did not continue acting. Because it's very strange, because when you enter films, सबसे पहले जो शौक होता है इंसान का कि वो कैमरा के सामने हीरो बन के आए, वो काम नहीं करता. Then you become a director, then you become a character actor, or then you become a producer. But जो पहला शौक होता है कि आप एक्टर बने, आप हीरो बने फिल्म का. बट तलत महमूद के केस में बिल्कुल उल्टा था. I mean, उनके प्रोड्यूसर और डायरेक्टर्स ने उनको खींच के बोला that you have a huge female following और तुम एक्टिंग शुरू करो. He reluctantly started acting. He did 13 films and then he left it. And it's very curious, because why doesn't one want to be in front of the camera? And he took a step back and decided it is only going to be singing, and I've trained my life for singing. So Muzaffar Ali said that same what I'm telling you is, when an artist decides what you're better at, you will always pick what you're better at. You will never publicly want to be seen what you're not as good as. So when he knew that the 1970s orchestra of music, the kind of music that was being composed, that was getting louder and more shrill, will not suit his voice.
And
So
also
he
the
stepped
fact
back.
that he was into ghazals in non-film. So he always had options also. That is also...
Yes, he had options, of course, absolutely.
and world
He had
the
his
popularity
options in
all
world
over
tours,
the world.
yeah. But
So those were there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are things that he can fall back upon. He's not totally dependent on as a playback singer.
Nothing pays like films. If you put your foot down and say, I don't want to sing a filmy song, you are, of course, on a commercial loss as well.
Also, in the
But-
peak years, like 1950s particularly, that do you think that the delving into the films, becoming hero, will cost him a bit also in the sense that he could have sung many more songs during that period also? 1950s also, like when he was also acting in films, 13 films that he
Right,
acted.
right.
So during that period also, if he was solely concentrating on music, would have been we have more songs from him.
No, because he was singing his songs for his own films. I mean, he had those
so
films,
those
and there
films
was
also.
those. No one else was playbacking for him, playing back for him. He was singing his own songs, his own films.
So Sonu Nigam wrote a forward.
Sonu has, yes. Interestingly, when I spoke to Sonu Nigam about writing the book, Sonu is the only singer of today's time who's connected to the golden era in the way that he can sing, and he's just going to be having a Mohammad Rafi tribute concert by the end of this month to mark 100 years. Yeah, to mark 100 years. So he's the one who understands golden era, and he was very happy to be writing a forward as well. So you will get to read that in the book as well.
Shashi Tharoor also.
Yes, Dr. Tharoor, who's not very connected to the music, but he's connected to writing. And I'm glad he's read the book and liked my writing style. So he's written a forward on that as well. Yeah.
Let's take some questions or observation from the audience. Please raise your hand. We will be attending to all of you. Like we start from the please give them.
I was very fascinated that Prudent sang in 16 different languages.
Yes.
So out of curiosity, wanted to know, did he really know those languages, or he was able to sing without, actually knowing the language also?
He made us all believe he's a multilingualist. Yeah. 16 languages is a lot. But he would practice and rehearse and then sing. He didn't know all the languages.
No, but to get the accent right.
Yes, so that as much as he understood about the languages, to rehearse and understand the local pronunciation or the twang, so to say. In fact, I write about this on how does one manage to sing in so many languages. The confidence he got was from being Tapan Kumar, because he started and he was told...
I think he knew Bengali.
Because he sang so much. But otherwise, he had to learn the language from scratch. He didn't know it. So, but it sounds like, I know, you're very convinced that he was a Bengali boy. But I spoke to, he sung in Telugu as well, which is believed to be one of the most difficult languages of our country. And I spoke to P. Sushila. She's a legendary singer of South India. She's known as the Lata Mangeshkar, the Nightingale of South India. And she's about... when I spoke to her, she was 91 last year, so she would be 92. She sang a Telugu duet with Talat, and that is mentioned again as a separate chapter in my book. And she explained, and she also told me about her hesitation. She said, I cannot imagine how Talat would manage this. I always kept thinking it's going to sound very awkward. But when they were rehearsing behind the scenes, he was very conscientious and also conscious of the fact that this is not a language he speaks, but he should sound like someone who speaks the language.
He had that ability to kind of understand
Yes, to
and
understand,
adopt
to add, and then to sing in a way that a speaking person of that language would, emote. Yeah, so.
Thank you very much. It's been enlightening to listen to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
good
coming.
talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a really, really nice summary of the book. My question is related to his identity, and you have touched a little bit about it, but I want to know a little more. So he calls himself Tapan Kumar when he's singing in Bengali and he's in Calcutta, and he comes to Mumbai and he calls himself Talat Mahmood. And this is the time where, you know, stalwarts like Yusuf Khan had to change his name to Dilip Kumar, Majabeen became Meena Kumari, and, you know, Mumtaz Begum became Madhubala. Was he under pressure at that time, especially when he was acting as a hero, to change his name to a Hindu sounding name? Or was that also the second part of the question?
Right.
Is, do you think not changing that name contributed to not so well doing as an actor, but doing better as a singer? Because Muhammad Rafi was already
Right.
a well-known name as a Muslim name.
Yeah. Interestingly, this has nothing to do with faith. He was already recording at All India Radio in Lucknow when he started as a 16-year-old in the name of Talat Mahmood. Then he went to Calcutta and recorded his ghazals in the name of Talat Mahmood. Changing his name to Tapan Kumar came as a suggestion from the great Mr. Pankaj Malik, who was one of the members of New Theatre's production. He suggested that it will be more acceptable to have a Tapan Kumar Bengali sounding name to sing Bengali. But he still kept his name Talat Mahmood as far as his ghazals were concerned. And also he was very young, so he told Pankaj Malik Saab, theek hai. And this was also a time when he was fighting with his father. And he said, okay, it's great. I can sing in someone else's name, in another name. And, you know, I won't come on the record label as such. But of course, I mean, his father recognized the voice of his son. He knew that his son has started singing in Bengali as well. But when he shifted to Bombay, he decided to retain his name as Talat Mahmood. That was the only reason. It was a suggestion that came from a stalwart like Tapan Kumar, Pankaj Malik, saying that have a more Bengali sounding name when you sing in Bengali. But for everything else, he was Talat Mahmood. Yeah.
The second part of my question was, do you think if he had kept the Tapan Kumar, he would have done better as a hero rather than as a singer?
So,
because of what was happening with Dilip Kumar and Meena Kumari and Madhubala.
Right. So that wouldn't have worked because Talat Mahmood as a singer was a very famous name. And because he was so popular as a singer, the story is that the producers and the directors noticed that Talat is the only singer who has the largest female following. And they said, you have to be in front of the camera because you're one of the few singers who come great in photographs for your albums and you're great in front of the camera, so you have to be acting in front of the camera. So that time he was already very famous as Talat Mahmood the singer. And he started acting after he became a famous singer. So he was already known as Talat Mahmood when he started acting. Yeah. Interesting question, though.
Good evening, ma'am, and good evening, Sakarji. This has been an exceptional evening as far as my personal experience goes because you've both opened the gates to the life and time of Talatji so very well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarkarji. Thank you, ma'am, for asking the kind of questions that you did and that resulted in the opening of the whole. See, we've been mesmerized by Talatji's music for decades. But what struck me today was that you mentioned that, you know, he was at his peak in 1956 and I was just 1 year old then. I was born in 55. And I probably connected with Talatji only 20 years later. And what a connect it has been because the pathos in his voice and the emotion and the passion with which it comes straight from the heart is something which just stays with you. Yes. So I really don't have a question. I just have a comment that it's been an exceptional evening and I just want to thank you both for so opening it out so beautifully, really.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
But I would like to add on to what you said that
Yes.
you were just born a year before he started touring and you're a different generation. You're not his contemporary. When I was doing these college shows in the name of Jashne Talat, where I was going and asking college singers, college students to sing his songs. And these were students who were 19, 20 years old doing their graduation. This was in 2017. So they're not connected to the golden era at all. But when they sang his songs, Talat Mahmood entered their playlist. I'm still in touch with them. They've graduated, passed out of college, doing jobs. But Talat Mahmood is still on their playlist because that's the power of his voice. Once you discover that treasure, you stay with it.
Absolutely.
Irrespective of what age and generation you are, This is art that travels through generations.
Now that you mentioned this, sorry, if I'll just take 30 more seconds.
No, you take your time.
I was the general secretary of my Dramatics and Music Society in college when I was in Bombay. I was in Sydenham College. And we organized 2 shows, one of one of Manna Day and one of Hemant Kumar in the Birla, auditorium. And we wanted to have Talatji also come in as a part of our fundraising drive and so on. But unfortunately, as luck would have it, we never, connected with him.
Which year was this?
This was 72 to 76. So
he must have been very busy touring at that time.
I would imagine so, because my colleagues told me, it's very difficult to get to Talatji, and but Manna Day is very keen, and even Manna Day ji was also a little eccentric, I mean, he wasn't a very extrovertish kind of a personality, and we had to kind of persuade him. But those years have been so important for the, as you very rightly said, the golden period of Indian music, and all these artists are a tribute, and it's sad to see that sometimes the younger generation has really no connect. I mean, even my own son, he hardly knows what this generation is all about, which is a little sad.
Hopefully the book will change some of it. Because I've also written it in a very contemporary, chatty format, and it's kind of a conversation that you're having when you read the book.
Keep on,
yes, thank
not
you.
A heavy reading.
And they're really broken down into very tiny sub-chapters. It's what the youngsters are used to, like headline clicks. Every chapter is a headline click. So in that sense, it's approachable. It was a very conscious decision that I didn't want the book to sound like a heavy piece of history that you don't want to read. It's very relatable for today. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much for all concerned for this evening.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you using third person singular for your grandfather. It's difficult for me to do that, but there's a journalist within you. My only comment rather is this, that I listened 100 times Talat in blue mood. There should be some collection in Talat in fine mood.
In fine mood.
Yeah, there are many pleasant songs also.
Absolutely.
There is no correction, and why is just painted as a grey people? He's a nice green people.
Right. I mean, this is what people most strongly identify it, Talat in blue mood, and they forget the happy, romantic and really happy foot-tapping numbers that he sung. There was someone else in my audience on one of my book talks who said very similar to what you've just expressed, that why is it that he just sang sad songs? So it's not that he just sang only sad songs. He sang a lot of happy, peppy songs. But it's because of the way he sang the sad songs, they stayed the longest with you, because he just kind of straight hit you at the heart. And that stays the longest with you. So, yeah, that's there.
Any other question? How was his relationship with his contemporaries, particularly male singers? Like, can you shed some light?
I've mentioned Manna Day, of course, we just spoke about. He was very close friends with Mukesh ji as well.
And there is a story regarding Madhumati.
Yes, regarding Madhumati, when artists always have fluctuating careers, an artist never has a career which is always steady and going high. It's always fluctuating. Sometimes you have films, sometimes you don't have films. So Mukesh ji was going through a very, very tough phase when Madhumati was being made. And this was 1957, yeah. 58, yes. So, and this was a film which was a Dilip Kumar film, which was a Bimal Roy film, so it meant it was a Talat Mahmood film. And the whole Madhumati album had to be
Salil Chaudhary
sung.
also, huh?
Yes, with Salil Chaudhary. And the whole Madhumati album had to be sung by by Talat Mahmood. It was his album. But his friend Mukesh ji was going through a very difficult phase, and he sat down with Bimal Da and Dilip Kumar, and he said, "Dekho, mera jo hamara jo dost hai Mukesh, उसका अभी बहुत ख़राब वक्त चल रहा है, तो एक गाने से उसका कुछ होगा नहीं, उसको पूरा album दे दो. So that is how we have Mukesh ji singing songs for Madhumati, because Talat decided to help him in that sense.
And Madhumati was a huge hit.
Was a huge hit. It was a landmark hit, even in terms of the number of Filmfare Awards it won. And this was a story which we always knew in the family. And because it was a personal act of helping a friend, Talat
was not
Nana
publicized.
never spoke about it publicly in any interview. But we always knew it within the family. And I wasn't sure whether I should be writing about this in the book. But interestingly, a few years before my book came out, Bimal Roy's daughter, she wrote a book about the making of the film Madhumati, because they were celebrating 50 years of Madhumati. And then she wrote about this incident as well, that it was a Talat Mahmood album and it was given to Mukesh to help his friend. So I felt more comfortable going public with it and writing about it in more detail. So that was the kind of relationship he had with Mukesh ji. Lata Mangeshwar was a very close friend, very close colleague. Even about royalty rights, she was always standing with him about that issue. With Mohammad Rafi Saab, it was emotional to the point where when he passed away, when Mohammad Rafi Saab passed away in the 1980s, there's a photograph in the book where you have Talat Nana bending down and kissing his forehead, kissing his mortal remains. And he said that this is a time where the world needed Rafi more, and I should have passed away instead of Rafi because of the kind of artist he was. So,
And any personal relationship when they were both alive?
no, not much.
Not much.
Not much. I think also because they kind of, their careers diverted very tangentially at that time. Asha Bhosle, Kishore Kumar were, of course, a younger generation, so they didn't have that kind of relationship. Yeah.
Now I heard it is just a hearsay. There is no evidence for that. So when 1969 Aradhana happened and Kishore Kumar came in a big way, so someone asked Rafi Saab that, are you apprehensive of this? So he said, I don't fear Kishore Kumar that much, but when in early 50s when Talat Mahmood Saab was that was a period I was really kind of, but I can handle this, but that was a very difficult phase for me. So like that, I heard there is no evidence for that.
But they had a lot of, they weren't really cutting each other, artists of that time. They had a lot of respect for each other's skill. That was something that isn't much that we see today. Yeah.
And also there is another story I heard, that in late 50s, I don't know the exact year, 58 or 59, there was a big concert in Shamukhanand Hall in Bombay. And Talat Saab was the first singer, followed by Rafi Saab and Kishore Kumar was supposed to sing. So the Rafi Saab and Kishore Kumar was sitting in the green room, and that time Talat Saab was singing and audience was like loving it.
So this is a real incident.
And then Kishore Kumar told Rafi Saab that, let's go home. After this, we become redundant.
It wasn't I think it was Asha Bhosle and Kishore Kumar. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But yeah,
It's true.
It happened, yeah. Because the 1950s was the absolute peak for Talat. He was the biggest star of the time. Yeah.
And with the music directors, I think Talat Saab has a love-hate relation
Madan
with...
Mohan Saab. Khayyam and him were very close, of course, because they had Footpath, and then they had all these other songs. Sham-e-Gham was quite an experiment because when Khayyam Saab was asked to compose for Sham-e-Gham, Sham-e-Gham ki qasam, aaj ghamgi hai hum. So if you notice that song, it doesn't have any percussion. It has no dholak, no tabla. So Khayyam Saab's experiment was to compose a song which does not have percussion. So this is just totally based on rhythms and the violin. It has no percussion. And Khayyam said that is something that highlighted the softness of Talat's voice more, being picturized on Dilip Kumar, and then the way it has been choreographed with flowing curtains and moonlit and candlelight. So that was like the whole package of the song. So yeah, I mean, of course, to make the long story short, Khayyam and Talat were very close. They have, I think, the maximum number of non-film ghazals that they have composed together.
And also Anil Vishwas, he considered
Anil
him
Da
his
was
guru.
his godfather.
Godfather.
Yeah, I mean, he used to say that Asma pe hai Khuda aur Zameen pe Anil Da. So, yeah, so I mean, he was his godfather.
But
so.
relationship with Naushad Sahab was a bit love-hate kind of a thing.
Yes, there was a lot of friction because there were cover versions of songs that were first recorded with Talat, and Naushad Saab changed it to another singer. So that was a bitter experience. But I think later in life, Naushad Saab kind of made it up because there was in the 1990s. There was a dictionary, a song dictionary of
Compilation of all songs.
Of all songs of Talat Mahmood. And it's the first time that happened ever for a singer. A fan of his was compiling all the songs, all the 800 songs that Talat has ever sang, which included radio recordings, which included regional songs, which included ghazal, film, non-film. And that Geet Kosh, that song dictionary, was released by Naushad Saab, in which he's written an extended letter saying that there can be no one after Talat, in the sense that he's someone who, there cannot be another copy of Talat. And I think at some point he tried to mend whatever bitterness had been caused earlier. Yeah. Okay. Also, when he passed away, in a Doordarshan documentary, Naushad explains Talat Nana as someone as Taghazzul-e-Ghazal. So Taghazzul-e-Ghazal in Urdu means that you are the epitome of Ghazal. You are Ghazal itself. And that is how he defined Talat Mahmood as, yeah.
And also Opi Nayar, while listing his 10 most favorite songs, the first one was from Talat Mahmood, I think.
Yes, this was from Sone Ki Chidiya, where you saw him acting as well. Pyar par bas to nahi hai. It's one of the most melodious songs. Yeah.
We have his great grandson, Gazule here.
No, Kazuo, it's a different name. It's similar to Taghazzul, yeah.
You want to ask anything? Yes, please, mic thoda dijiye unko.
Which is the next book you're planning to write? Have you thought of that?
No, I've just been very busy touring with this book right now. But I've enjoyed non-fiction because it's very close to being a journalist.
My question is more on an observation point of view. When we look at singers, songwriters from abroad, US, UK, and other countries, the English-speaking world, we find that they make their own music, they write their own lyrics, and they sing. Why in India have we not produced somebody who can do all of these things? I mean, we had people like Kishore Kumar and Talatji who could act and sing, but lyricists, there've never been anybody who has also made their own music, also written songs. So do you think we are less talented than the Western ones, or what is the cause?
No, I think it's because of the structure of Bollywood. I think it's about having Bollywood or Tollywood now in equal measure, having a very strong film industry that in which anything being done as a non-film project, like even when Talat Nana has his non-film ghazals, there were a few ghazals in which he composed his music. But yes, all of them was poetry written by someone else and music direction by someone else. It's the structure of how the film industry has made itself as an entity that it's very difficult to step away from that. I think everything else gets drowned by the power of Bollywood. And the yardstick of a success continues to remain Bollywood. I think that's the commercial of it is there.
Maybe the trend of playback singing, because that has created another kind of profession.
Absolutely.
I mean, in the Western, even if they are making a biopic, the actor still sings. I mean, it was
Yes.
amazing to see films
Musicals were done
musicals
by,
were
yeah.
done, and ABBA, they made the Mamma Mia, Mamma
Yes.
Mia 1 and 2, and the actors were singing.
Absolutely.
Some of them didn't even have a singing voice.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't take the recording
Right.
from there and playback singing. So
True.
that may be the reason.
Yes.
But suppose, for example, in Bengali music, like non-film music is a very, quite a significant part of Bengali music. So even 90s, even 2000, we have like individuals like Shumon Chattopadhyay, like Anjan Dutt, like Nachiketa. They wrote their own lyrics, they composed those or sang also those. So they are one man or army
Like
kind
Rabindra
of. So
Sangeet coming from-
this kind of trend is there. But though they are not related to the film music as such. Because at that time Bengali film was on the decline. So they found a way out how to come out with the creativity is used in such a manner. So they are writing their own songs. So like it's not that those who are writing songs cannot put those into music and sing also. There are a lot of examples. I think these examples are also there in regional film, regional kind of music also. But might not be that much. But I think there were some trends of pop music like in the 90s and
Yeah,
the 2000s.
there was, I think,
There
just
were
a phase. Yeah.
Shan came out with album.
Yeah,
which
but
was a
Shan
lot
came to Bollywood. Alicia Chennai came to Bollywood.
later
So
on.
Bollywood
It all
drowns
gobbled
everything.
up. Like.
Bollywood just drowns everything and takes over everything. Yeah. Yes.
Just correct me if I'm wrong. First and foremost, I'm a kid of 80s and I'm a researcher myself. I do it for myself, So the point here, what I want to make, just correct me again, I'm repeating myself. After mid 60s, you don't find Talat Mahmood more in playback till he was alive. Say last 3 decades of his life. Okay, I understand probably because of his style was not suited or nobody wanted. These are questions, like self-asked questions. I asked to myself, right, as a researcher, was it like nobody wanted to experiment with him? First, and second thing I want to ask you, or rather you can touch upon about his hand holding or the help that he built up certain careers of Jagjit Singh, Bhupendra and Talat Aziz. So just on these two things, right?
Right. No, part of your observations are very right. His last hit number was 1964, which was Jahara. He was recording in the 70s, and his last film recording was in the 1980s. But these were not hits, and these were very, very few. Maybe just one song in a year, or 2 songs in 5 years. So obviously film recordings had dwindled. But once again, I'd like to say that his non-film ghazals were still being recorded. I mean, he had his last ghazal album recorded in 1986, when Dilip Kumar Saab had come to launch that album, and which hit the charts, He had a huge celebration party of that ghazal album of 1986, in which he invited the next generation. So there's a picture of Talat standing in the center with Bhupendra Singh, Talat Aziz. He helped launch Pankaj Udas's first album, debut ghazal album. He went to launch it. So he was still very much engaged in the act and profession of singing, but it became away from films. It became more focused on ghazals, and it became more focused on his world tours. He was massively world touring throughout. To the extent that, like in the 1970s, when New York and America, the American market was not very explored by Indian singers, he went there and launched a lot of their Indian diaspora and NRI clubs. You have the New York Indian Club today, which was launched by him. I spoke to the Indian club in Minnesota. That was launched by him in 1972. They kind of registered their club for his concert, and that is how the Minnesota club got launched. And when I was writing the book 2 years ago, they were celebrating 50 years of their club. So they released a book in which they wrote about how Talat launched that club in Minnesota. And then because it was 1972, we were having floods here in India at that time. So he went there, and in that concert, he raised flood relief funds for India back home. So he was doing different things. He was not visible, his voice was not heard in films, but he still had a very busy calendar of an artist, and he was doing other things apart from films. Yeah.
So in this context, like in late 90s, when Air India was like launching its in-flight information, entertainment thing,
Yes.
so they requested Tala Saab to come up with a 2-hour audio kind of
Exactly.
a thing.
So he was doing very different things. You know, Air India in 1989, I think that's when he finished the decade of the 80s, or in early 90s. Air India as an airlines launched its in-flight entertainment, which they technically call the IFE. So the in-flight entertainment wanted to make these special audio programs. At that time, it was just audio entertainment. The video wasn't there. So Talat Mahmood was invited by Air India to record a 2-hour capsule of golden era music, in which he hosted that show, he anchored that, and he spoke about his songs, he spoke about his favorite songs of Lata, he spoke about his favorite songs of Mukesh and which ones to hear. So he did a golden era show for Air India for their in-flight, long flights, long international flights. So he was actively involved in other things, but not in films, yeah. And then, of course, he inspired, like, he didn't train them, but he became an inspiration for the next generation of ghazal artists. Like, you have Mehdi Hasan, you have Jagjit Singh, who are complete stalwarts and legends in their own right. In their lifetime, Mehdi Hasan Saab, Jagjit Singh ji has always maintained that they themselves would never have become ghazal singers had they not been Talat Mahmood fans. For them, Talat Mahmood was their guru. And there are a lot of incidents in the book where I write about these interactions that Mehdi Hasan ji would have with Talat Nana when he would go visiting Karachi. A lot of heart-to-heart conversation that he would have with him. So he was a silent presence, but very much active as an artist. Yeah.
And also the introduction of stereophonic sound, he experimented with that also. Yes.
In the 1980s, we're talking about the technical evolution of music. And that's when stereo sound entered India. A stereo sound is when you would have the right speaker and the left speaker have separate sounds, one of the orchestra and separated with the audio of the singer. So a lot of his 1940s songs and the 1950s songs, he re-recorded in stereo sound in the 1980s. And I was speaking to his orchestra manager, Mr. Enoch Daniels. He's still around, and I spoke to him in great detail about it. And he said that the quality of Talat's voice, he technically found the same, because these were songs that he sang in the 1950s, but he re-recorded them for the new generation in stereo sound in the 1980s. I mean, that could have been very challenging for any artist, but he did that, and they sold as well. So I think he was very adventurous in that sense.
Suppose what would be the, like, you think the Tala Saab's contribution to music and aesthetics together? Like music and aesthetics, there is aesthetic parts of music also, in the sense that the thing that you're talking about, the poetry, the setting wordings, all these things matter. And also the softness, the flow. So what would you say that the lasting legacy of Talat Saab in the genre of music and aesthetics together?
The lasting impact is the softness of his voice, the way it would soothe you and calm you and comfort you. That's one of the main reasons why I started Jashn-e-Talat, because in a very personal experience, I was going to work, and my son wasn't well. He was a baby at that time. And I didn't want to leave him behind, but I still left him behind at my mom's, and I went to do my television news. And I put on the radio, and Talat was singing. He was singing Sham-e Gham Ki Qasam. So I felt as if he's personally trying to comfort me, you know, and that's the lasting impact of his voice, of having that soft, soothing quality. It takes you away to a corner and stays with you. That is his biggest contribution.
And I think that will continue for the next generations.
Absolutely.
And so,
Yeah.
This program was supported by Agio All Stars Sale.